Hey everyone, you're tuned into InfoQuench with Jeff.
And Amy. Join us as we talk about anything.
And everything.
All the stuff that makes life interesting.
So let's get to it. Hey everybody, and welcome to InfoQuench. I'm your host, Jeff.
And I'm Amy, and this episode we're going to be talking about stuff we're watching.
Yes, we've done this before in previous podcasts, and
we have.
I think that they're relatively well received.
I think so. This is volume 2, so if you're looking for more things to watch, scroll on back through the catalog to episode 45, and you can listen to our first batch of recommendations. So we're going to talk about some shows we're watching recently, not necessarily new shows, just new to us, and I think with the ongoing pandemic, people are spending a little more time at home.
That's what I was just going to say. I think that a lot of people are in the same boat as us. You're at home, you're like maybe snacking a little bit more, maybe eating a little bit more unhealthy foods. Well, you know what? Maybe I should just talk about that. That's me. That's my, I've been doing that a bit. So have you?
Is this a confession?
This is a confession that I didn't even feel like I was ready to do, but I guess I am.
It is Easter weekend, so.
It is Easter weekend. We've eaten a little bit of chocolate.
Yes.
Absolutely. But we've been watching some amazing programs as well.
Yeah,
I know.
While we eat that chocolate, we're watching some good shows.
Yeah, we're watching. I mean, we've watched some doozies for sure.
So we'll go through these and we'll try to say where they came from and how we've watched them. But some of them you're just going to have to be a little creative and find ways to stream them, however you may find them.
Yeah,
we'll just leave it at that. The first one is a little bit of an obscure show. I heard about it through Tim Ferriss.
Tim Ferriss, who's one of your favorite podcasters.
And an author, and he does a 5 Bullet Friday email and often gives recommendations on different things that he's reading, watching.
Yeah.
And he recommended Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia,
which is a Vice production.
Right. So it began as a monthly column about psychoactive drugs that was written by the host, which is Hamilton Morris, for Vice magazine.
Who is the son of Errol Morris, who has done some amazing documentaries also.
Right, a very well-known filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it became an American docuseries, and it premiered on Viceland in 2016, which now is known as Vice TV.
Yeah.
And there are 3 seasons. There's a bit of a gap.
I wonder if they're going to continue doing more. Do you know that, or in your research did you find that out?
There may be. The 3rd season actually only ran in 2021.
Oh, okay.
So just recently. So there was a big gap because of COVID.
Yeah.
And
that seems to be the case for a lot of shows.
Yeah, I'm hoping that there'll be another one. Essentially, the premise is that the host is Hamilton Morris, and he explores the history, chemistry, social impact of psychoactive substances.
But drugs we didn't even know existed, to be honest.
Well,
and the crazy political history and the, just the ways in which these clandestine, I don't even know if I'm saying that word right, clandestine?
You're overthinking it.
Clandestine.
It's clandestine.
It's just clandestine. Ways in which these drugs are produced is so fascinating. It truly is. And he gets, I don't know about the footage that he gets, like the access that he gets to some of these drug kingpins and stuff. It doesn't seem right. I don't know how he does it.
Well, I know, and they try to conceal their identities, and some of them do a better job than others.
Some of them are downright comical with it, with the third eye and the hat and stuff.
If I was trying to, I think about this on a lot of shows. If I was going to conceal my identity, I would make sure it was fully concealed. I find sometimes people will just, put something over the bottom of their face, which essentially we're all doing now with masks. So we're getting really good at identifying people just by their eyes. So
or just conceal their voice even. Even if they do that, like their mannerisms and the way in which they speak could give them away so easily.
Sometimes they're completely covered, and then they'll have a very distinct arm tattoo or something.
It is phenomenal. Like it's a really great show, and it keeps you going. Like I always find that Hamilton's approach with the people that he's talking to, or even when he's talking to us as viewers, he's so ridiculously dry and just so, like, it's hard to tell whether or not he's being earnest or comical when he's speaking to us sometimes.
Well, he's very much a scientist. He's, he has a strong knowledge of chemistry, and it comes into play throughout the series. So and the series, involves a lot of travel, so you get to see some interesting places from Oaxaca, Mexico,
Yeah.
to South Africa. Some.
And there are particular episodes where he actually indulges in the drugs that he's trying to describe to us as viewers,
Right.
which is really, those are the really entertaining ones for me, to see him all spaced out on particular drugs. Like mushrooms, I think he did mushrooms in one of them. Not to give it away. I don't think I'm giving anything away by saying that.
No, well, and I think a lot of the drugs some of the drugs are commonly known,
Yeah.
PCP, but he really goes back to the pure, like the first, the origins of these
Yeah.
drugs and where they came from. So that's why he sort of travels to the source.
Sorry, I know you probably want to get back to the list, but I just wanted to say that my favorite episode.
What list? I have no list.
That my favorite episode though was the one where he was interviewing the chemist who was charged early on in his chemistry career, and he had made all these different drugs. Remember, he was busted and he was living in this shack with his wife, and it was just like
they actually both had spent time in jail.
He was a guru of the chemistry, like the self-made chemistry guy.
MDMA,
MDMA.
I think the MDMA
he did a
episode.
lot of different, he synthesized a lot of different drugs. And anyways, it was really cool when he caught up with him and interviewed him, because, he was lamenting as to what his life could have been.
As a legitimate chemist.
I was saying to you when we were watching it, I said, he could have been a chemistry professor. He's so knowledgeable when it comes to chemistry.
Well, that's the thing. I think a lot of the chemists that are cooking in labs, they definitely do see it as an art form. And you think if they had used that expertise, that that skill in another direction, what could have happened? But
right.
This show really does it. What's the word I'm looking for? Sensationalizes or glorifies, different types of psychoactive drugs, and also talks about, some very specific medicinal uses.
Spiritual uses.
He interviews shamans, scientists, a lot of, figures on the fringe of society. And so definitely check it out. Again, that's Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia.
Yeah.
And, that's probably one you're going to have to do a little digging to find, but it's worth the effort. Next one I had on my list was Better Things.
Better Things was a great show. Yeah, it was really good.
And it's on FX. It's a comedy drama television series, and it features Pamela Adlon.
Yeah.
And it was actually created by her and Louis C.K. However, in November of 2017, after Louis C.K. confirmed all of the sexual misconduct allegations, when he confirmed they were true, FX actually canceled their overall deal with C.K. and his production company. So he had no involvement in future seasons beyond that point.
Beyond what season was that?
So that was in 2017. I think it was the third season.
Okay.
So 4 seasons have aired. The last one, there was a bit of a gap in this one too, aired in spring of 2020, and it's actually been renewed for a 5th season. So there'll be more coming out, and it's really interesting. The premise is that Adlon plays a character named Sam Fox, and she's a divorced actress.
Yeah.
And she's raising her 3 daughters in California on her own as sort of a B-list actress, and supporting her ex-husband financially, and has her mother living across the street. And
that's what I loved about that show, was the realistic portrayal of family life.
The cat just scared the crap out of me.
Oh, what's he doing? I didn't even hear it.
Oh, he's just
but
meowing.
The realistic portrayal of family life was just amazing in that show.
All the acting is incredible.
Because I hate those kids and then I love them. I hate them and then I love them. And that's not the way I am with my kid, but
Did you hear him that time?
I did hear him that time, yeah. Okay. You know what? Our listeners are used to it.
You made me think that guys, I was like,
I honestly, I was talking at the time, and I honestly didn't even hear him.
No? I was thinking after the Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia, I thought I was having a little auditory hallucination there. I was like, did I really hear the cat, or do I just have this weird
old NDMA
anxiety of
kicking in?
Charlie always, there we go. Better Things. It actually received a Peabody Award in 2017, and it was described as being searingly funny and beautiful. and it's at times a raw examination of the vicissitudes of working motherhood, crackling with feminist verve and energy that consistently cuts new ground.
Yes.
What a descriptive sentence that was. And
it's
what
true.
Did you hear me nail that vicissitudes?
Yeah, that was pretty.
I have no idea if I pronounced that correctly, but
you should get an award for
off
that.
my
You should get a
lips.
Peabody for how you. I don't even know if they get Peabodys for properly pronounced words.
But that was a good one. I like Pamela Adlon, and she does a really great job in that show.
Yeah, I love her
And-
too. She actually, the first time I ever saw her in anything was Louis, the show Louis, where she played.
Yeah, that's right.
She dated Louis or whatever, and she was just like she stole the show, the scene, every scene that she was in.
How strange it is, all these people that associated with Louis C.K. and then that happened and they basically had to just completely...
Yeah, you were telling me earlier today that Mark Maron did the same thing. He just
Yes.
once that happened, he was like, I basically disowned the guy.
Well, I mean, it's hard when the person comes out and admits it. And
Yeah. I wonder if he
It's out
admitted
there.
it thinking that, oh, you know what? I'm just being real. I'm just telling people. Like, I don't know. You know, a lot of like celebrities deny. He came right out and said that, yeah, I did it.
Well, you're right. And
It's interesting.
Maybe it was part of a legal
Yeah.
decision. I don't know. But yeah, you're right. Most of the time it's all complete denial. It's rare that people will come out and admit it. And
Yeah.
I guess maybe he expected to be rewarded for that, but that didn't happen.
No, it didn't.
Another show we stumbled upon this one, and it is really awesome. It's called Catastrophe, and that one was
yeah.
on. I think I'm quite certain it's still on Amazon Prime.
What was that one about again? Oh, my goodness.
So that was
I can't
it's a
even
British
remember.
sitcom, and it was
British sitcom.
It was written, and it also written by and stars Sharon Horgan and Rob Delaney.
Oh, yes. Okay, that one.
And it's funny because their characters have the same names, and they're named Sharon and Rob, but they have different last names or
Yeah.
character names. I always find that funny when actors
Use their actual name.
Use their actual names in a show.
Yeah, that is interesting. I remember that show, and it was funny. It was short-lived, though. It didn't really last very long, did it? And it hasn't been renewed.
Well,
Is that
it did
right?
have a few seasons. It had three seasons altogether, and I thought it wrapped up quite well. So I think it's worth the watch. And it was one of those ones I laughed out loud to. Sharon Horgan is just an amazing comedic writer and actress, and
And Rob is an actual comedian, right?
yes,
Yes. 'Cause
and if you IMDb or is that a
Yeah.
verb? Can you IMDb?
Hey,
some?
why not?
If you IMDb Sharon Horgan, it'll blow your mind how many things she's been in, how many hits she's been associated with. But the premise of the show is that she portrays like a single woman living in London, and she meets up with Rob and they have a one-night stand.
One-night
They meet in a
stand.
bar, and she becomes unexpectedly pregnant.
And then it's just the shenanigans that happen afterwards.
Exactly. And
Without giving anything away too much, you know?
I found this interesting, the name Catastrophe. The reason they named that show Catastrophe, it was named after a quote from the movie Zorba the Greek.
Oh.
And the quote was, "I am a man, so I married. Wife, children, house, everything. The full catastrophe."
That's
And that's
great.
how they came up with the name for it. So their names in the show are Sharon Morris and Rob Norris. But
So what do you know what channel that one is featured on, or like what network?
I do not.
Okay.
Well, it came out as a British sitcom
Okay,
originally,
yeah.
but now it's featured on Prime. So,
Okay, yeah.
And it also stars Carrie Fisher plays Rob's mother, and it was Carrie Fisher's last,
Oh, yeah.
her final TV role. She actually passed away between the second and third season.
And she plays some rough character, man.
She does.
Oh,
She's got a lot of character.
oh, she's so good in it, I feel.
Yeah, she was really good. And another interesting part around this show, or I guess a little interesting fact, is that Rob Delaney in real life suffers from depression and is a recovering alcoholic, and he actually used that as a bit of a theme in the show.
Oh, yeah. So it's
so-
autobiographical for him a bit.
Exactly. So, it's one of those shows that blurs the line a little bit between the two.
I found in that show, had excellent comedic timing. That was his, like, coup de grace, whatever. He was like, just I wouldn't say so much that he was like a fantastic actor, but like because he's a comedian and he had great comedic timing, his character said the right things in the right way, and it was very enjoyable to watch.
You know what was interesting to me though is after we wrapped up the show, and then we looked up some of his stand-up, and I didn't find his stand-up comedy as funny as he was in the show.
No, I didn't either. I remember we watched some like bits and stuff that he did, and it really wasn't. It didn't translate as well as his acting did in the show.
It's interesting how that crossover doesn't always happen. I mean, sometimes it's seamless, or it seems to be. I know there's a lot of work in the background. You think of somebody like Jerry Seinfeld.
I was just going to say he merges the two of them together.
And I don't know if it's the style of comedy they do on the stage is just so different than what they're doing in their acting career. But I don't know. Sometimes it translates, sometimes it doesn't. But usually, once we watch a comedy, and if I find I'm laughing out loud, I want to check out the stand-up, because that's usually where they, got their start. And I
just saw online, and just as a quick aside, that's Jerry Seinfeld did a show, like an unannounced show at like the Comedy Cellar in New York. I think it was Comedy Cellar's in New York, right? Is that where it is?
I think so, yeah. I think it's just called
like
the Cellar.
The first time since the pandemic, so he couldn't wait to get back. And he showed him with a mask and stuff, a picture of him.
Oh, really?
And he did like an unannounced like bit kind of thing. So anyway, people say Jerry Seinfeld's a safe comedian and that he doesn't really push the boundaries of ideas and stuff. But I feel like he does. But what I respect most about Jerry Seinfeld and his comedy is that he is a trooper. He loves the craft, and he gets out and he does it as much as he can, and I like that. That's my little tirade on my little soliloquy about Jerry Seinfeld.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's been asked before about retiring, and I don't think he has any plans for retirement. I mean, if you enjoy what you do that much, why would you make plans to stop doing it until, I guess, if you got to the point of maybe not being able to remember the material or something like that. But I think we're going to see him for quite a few years yet.
Was it you that told me that Jerry Seinfeld may have convinced Eddie Murphy to get back on stage and do some stand-up comedy?
Me, no.
Maybe I read it someplace then. Anyway, okay, so what's next on our list of shows?
This is a funny one, and people will probably laugh at us. 30 Rock.
Oh, we binge watched that show like no other in our entire history of TV watching.
I really don't know how we missed it when it first came on, but for whatever reason we didn't catch it the first time around. I actually confused it with Third Rock from the Sun. 30 Rock, Third Rock.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Tina Fey, Alec Baldwin, Tracy Morgan are some of the big names in that show. If you didn't catch it the first time around, it's definitely worth watching. Liz Lemon is the character played by Tina Fey, and she's a head writer for a sketch comedy show. And essentially she has to deal with a very arrogant, eccentric boss and stars of the show. So the boss is played by Alec Baldwin, and she... through it all, she just struggles to kind of keep this TV show running successfully without like losing it.
It definitely mimics what I would imagine Saturday Night Live is like sometimes.
Sort of a behind the scenes look at a sketch comedy show.
Was a head writer there as well. That's the thing. Like this show redefines like how a comedy series is written. It is so
it's
witty.
Rapid fire.
It's so rapid fire, and it's just every character in their own unique way is larger than life, but like not in a tiresome way. It's so great.
Oh yeah, I mean they definitely develop their character, and for a sitcom, they develop their characters very quickly, and they put so much content into such a short time frame.
Yeah,
and oftentimes I'm sure that we've watched episodes where I missed half the jokes because they're just coming at you so fast.
Yeah,
that it takes a while to even
that's the way I find like Family Guy is and The Simpsons, and like sometimes it's just like. I'm still laughing at this joke that was awesome, and
three
I missed
more have hit
three
in the meantime.
Jokes, but they got into hot water. 30 Rock.
Well, they did, yeah. June of 2020, 4 episodes of 30 Rock were pulled. So 2 of them included Jane Krakowski, which is
what is her name in the show?
She plays a character named Jenna.
Jenna,
and she's wearing blackface.
Yeah.
And so because of that, they and there was just a lot of, I guess, racial content,
Undertones and stuff.
in
They
a
talk
few of
about
their
Hitler
episodes.
a lot. You notice that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
That's bizarre. I don't know where that comes from, Tina. Tell us about what your fascination
I know. I'm sure if
with
you
Hitler
Googled
is.
it, there's some, a million articles on that one too. But really, what happened? So with those 4 episodes, they were removed from subscription streaming services like Hulu and Amazon Prime, and then and sort of made unavailable for purchase from other platforms where they would carry 30 Rock, like iTunes or Google Play, and they will no longer air on traditional TV either. And they were actually pulled at the request of Tina Fey and the other executive producer for the show, Robert Carlock. And it was essentially, with the explanation that we know better. We know better now, and we're going to do better, and we're going to, they're not appropriate. And
If only our prime minister knew better back in the day. But anyway, no, but it's a great show. And you know what? I will give the show marks for taking chances. By doing that all live show was so phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I thought you meant by taking chances with the racial content, but no, not with that.
No, they definitely pushed the envelope though when it came to just comedic, input and stuff like.
Right.
They really, and I think Tina Fey has always been about that. Like, well, the case in point, what I was just talking about with the Hitler jokes and stuff. Like, she likes to rattle people's, ideas of what comedy is, and I respect that. But not to get into a big, debate and conversation about the blackface and stuff, but I respect that she pushes the envelope, not the blackface face though.
Yes, no, I know what you're saying. I think that comedians do good comedians, great artists push the boundaries, but then there are limits, and when race comes into it, those are definitely areas that they need to stay away from.
But if you haven't seen the show, I mean, honestly, it would take you. I don't know how long it took us. It took us months to get through.
I know there's so many episodes.
And we watched them a lot.
And a lot around, I guess a positive area of pushing the boundaries, a lot around politics, right? There's a lot of...
there's a lot of politics in that.
Which is...
Reagan, like the whole conversation, the correlation between Alec Baldwin's character and Reagan, and how he was always...
yeah.
Yeah, anyway. He played a right-wing nut.
Oh yeah, Alec Baldwin does an amazing job in that show.
Yeah,
he's. I had a new respect for his. Well, I didn't really know that he had comedic. Bones in his body, I guess.
I noticed though, like his character is like the way that he presents his character is really quite similar to the Trump impersonation that he does on Saturday Night Live. It just must be the way, the method by which he acts, like the way he moves his head and the way the words come out of his mouth. It's so similar if you watch his character.
Well, you're right.
On the show.
I mean, I think sometimes when you get so used to seeing somebody in a role for a long period of time, like I think Jennifer Aniston, we watched her on Friends for years. You get very used to some of the, facial expressions, gesturing that is actually just part of who they are. And then that tends to come across in any performance because it's, it's the things that are subconscious that people do. So, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, that's a new show for us. Well, it's a new show, period, isn't it?
Yeah, it was also created by Tina Fey and Robert Carlock for NBC, and it reminded me a bit of Parks and Recreation, but it really, it looks at, Ted Danson plays the mayor, and he's great. He's funny in it. It's, his character's name is Neil Bremer, and he's just a rich businessman who runs for the mayor of LA. And the previous mayor, I guess, is out quite quickly because of COVID. So it's kind of it's set with some discussion. One of the first, I guess, fictional shows that has quite a bit of COVID pandemic discussion around it, which I found interesting. And what Jeff's completely distracting me because he's looking over my shoulder. Is the cat into something?
The cat's about to eat something out of a bowl, and I'm about to fling an elastic at him.
I don't know if that's an
Just to scare him away.
This is what's happening in the background if we've completely lost focus.
It's all right. No, it's only me that's lost focus. So I think it's a false alarm anyway. So
okay, yeah. It seems like he's moved on to other things. Good. Okay, so what were we talking about? Oh yes, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I found, you know what I found about that show, and I want to know if you agree with me. And these kinds of shows in particular, to be honest, like you mentioned Community. Well, a lot of the characters in that show are like larger than life in the beginning. And I found that Bobby Moynihan and the intern and whatever, like they were like larger than life. And it took me a little bit to get used to their characters. But once I did, it became funny and like normal. But like at first I found their characters a little too much for me to digest. Like it was almost like not funny because they were going above and beyond what they should be. Like when they were delivering lines, for example, they were really kind of, really projecting and going over the top. Do you know what I mean? Like Jenna's character as well in
30 Rock.
In 30 Rock.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. I think the reason that takes a little while to get used to is we've become so accustomed to watching these series with just incredible acting that is meant to very much seem like reality, whereas sitcom acting is very much about an over-the-top character. They're playing a type.
It's true. Like Three's Company, they were like over the top, And what was that other one? Superstore. That's why I didn't like that show, to be honest. Like it took me a while to digest that and figure it out, but it's because the characters were just too over the top for me to really invest in. Like the suspension of disbelief. I mean, I can't believe you need that for a sitcom, but it just...
Well, you don't, I guess.
No.
I mean, that's the thinking, really, isn't it? It's
Kramer is like over the top, but that's what makes it funny. But for me, that's what kind of ruins some sitcoms.
Well, we're getting used... Well, let's bring it back to The Wire.
Yeah.
It always comes back to The Wire.
The Wire.
But Mr. Mayor has some cameos of from playing themselves: Andy McDowell, Chrissy Teigen, David Spade. So it's interesting that way. It'll be interesting to see what happens in future seasons because it has only aired for one season, renewed for a second. So we'll see that. It was actually recommended by our mayor of our city. We're proudly hosting our podcast out of St. John, New Brunswick, and our mayor actually tweeted about Mr. Mayor.
That's how we found out about it.
That's how I found out about it, yeah, and that's how it got on our radar.
I'm pretty sure he enjoyed it.
I would like to talk quickly about Maron.
Oh yeah, Mark Maron. We mentioned him earlier today.
We did. So Mark Maron has a show called Just Maron, ran for 4 seasons. And the reason it was on my radar, I was listening to a podcast, WTF by Mark Maron, and he was interviewing Brad Pitt, and Brad Pitt said he'd watched the Maron series 3 times all the way through. So I was like, I got to check this out. Apparently it was on Netflix for a while, but I think it's since been removed from Canadian and American Netflix. But you can find it wherever else you find your shows when they get removed from other listing services. And it's very, it's sort of a fictional version of himself, where it shows him running his podcast out of his garage. So you see a lot of, famous comedians that make appearances on the show. And I really enjoyed it,
Yeah, I think it was in all honesty, like it's one of my all-time favorite shows that we've watched. It really is. Like it's funny, it's well written, it's well acted, the characters are amazing, the settings are amazing, the way in which it's scripted as well, like the way in which the storyboard, like how it follows a certain chronology, like how it ends with him talking about his podcast. And anyway, it's just such a great show.
It is. Again, that's called Maron, and it wraps up pretty well too. I mean, of the 4 seasons, the 4th season was probably my least favorite. It's
absolutely.
A little bit different than the first 3, but to each their own. And definitely check it out. I mean, Mark Maron's got a great podcast too. So if you like to listen to podcasts,
We listened to
Like
the
you're doing
Bourdain
now.
one tonight, which is
Yeah.
number 200 and some odd. And, I like listening to that show as well to get like ideas for how to conduct our own podcast, because he's been doing it a while. We can learn some stuff from that old
Yeah,
dog.
I think the key to success is to interview very famous people. So we'll just have to get on that.
Yeah, actually, that's true. We've got some things coming for you in the future on this podcast. Please keep listening. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week or next podcast.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening.
And remember, you can catch up on past episodes at infoquench.com.
Or just about anywhere else you get your podcasts.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
And help spread the word about InfoQuench.
Till next time.